Hi guys, today's video we're going to have a look at speeding up your workflow by creating actions within Photoshop which allow us just to one click do our editing and be able to save our images and work on a lot of images together so we're not repeating ourselves over and over again. Hi guys, here we are in Photoshop then. This is an image that I've got up that I worked on a little while ago. This is the raw image just imported straight into Photoshop. I'm just going to crop out my assistant's hand out of that just to make that a little bit better of an image. So that's that gone. And what I'm going to show you today is how to create an action. These actions can be anything you want them to be. They can be resizing, they can be color grading, they can be black and white, they can be whatever you want. You can see in my actions here that I have an awful lot of actions that are already created. Each of these files has got what actually happens when you click these actions and make them work. But what I'm going to do is I have a personal folder on here of the actions I use the most, and I'm going to add an action to that, and I'll do a color grading action today. But like I say, this can be anything you want. It can be resizing, it can be softening or sharpening or whatever you want to do. So to start with, I've highlighted my file and I'm going to add to that. So I'll go down to the add button, and it tells me which set it's in. It's in my personal file, and I'm going to rename this. Now, last night I watched the movie Mad Max Fury Road, and I noticed that in there they had a color gradient that was from a bright blue down to a bright orange. So I'm going to try and recreate that. So I'm just going to have a look at renaming this. Let's call it Mad Max for today. And if I want to be able to find it easily, I can change the color of what it looks like when we go into button mode. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to record what I'm going to do. Now there's no speed in this. There's nothing that you have to do in a certain order or whatever. It's just take your time and have a look at what you want to do to your photograph. So what I'm going to do here first and foremost is I'm going to go to my adjustment layers, and I'm going to go to levels. Actually, I'm going to go to, I'll go to exposure on this. It doesn't matter which I go to, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my exposure of the image up or down a little bit, depending on what I want to do. I'm just going to bring it just down a touch. Okay, that's no worries. And if I want to, I can go back and adjust that just by double clicking the icon on the side there. So for this image, I'm going to look at adding a gradient. So if I look at a gradient, and this is a color to see-through. I don't want that. I want a solid color. So for this, I'm going to have a look at blues. And the nearest thing was pink to blue. Now last night when I watched the movie, it was blue to orange or orange to blue. So if I click on my gradient, I get how my gradient works here, and I can change my colors on this by just going to my color picker. So let's go to an orange, a nice warm orange. Okay, and the other end of the scale was an azure blue I noted from the film. This isn't far off. I'm just going to make that a little bit deeper, maybe a bit more blue. Okay. So my gradient fill is there now. So obviously if it's a gradient fill, it's covered the top of my photograph up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it as an overlay. And now you can see the effect that my exposure and my gradient fill has had on there. I can adapt that. I'm going to bring my opacity down a little bit on this because I don't want it so strong. And we can see what we did there. Yep. So I'm going to merge these two together. So if I go to Control and I select them both, and then it's Control and G, and I've got a group, and I'm going to call that group Mad Max. Okay, and you can see there now that I've got a adjustments to my photograph called Mad Max. The good thing about this is I can go back and I can adjust it if I want. I can have a look at my colours and maybe think that I want to make that a little bit warmer, so I can do that. I can adjust my brightness on my exposure if I want. Close that back down, and that's my gradient that I've created there. If I wanted to just go back and mask off Leanne, who's my model in this, I can literally go onto the mask that's already created with that, and I can, if I want to, paint over black over the areas and bring some colour back into Leanne's face. So I've got my gradient now. If I go back to my tool panel here and click stop, that's it, we're finished. So if I look in my Mad Max here, it's told me all the things that I've done. Okay, so they're all the adjustments we made, and I can close that back down, and I go into my files now, and there's my Mad Max action. Like I say, it could be anything you want it to be, resizing or added softness or whatever. If I go to open, and I open a second image, there we go. Let's just open any image for now. And I want to play that Mad Max. I click on my Mad Max, and there we go. It's added exactly the same thing to this image, which means that I can open as many images as I want and add exactly the same gradient. And whenever I do that, I can go back and I can add, adjust, and I can alter my opacity of the whole lot of actions, the whole lot of changes that we've made within that action. So hopefully you'll be able to create some actions and speed up your editing. I've got actions that I've created, which is metadata. If I click on my metadata, what's that? That has added, that adds, when I click on play, all my information. So I can just add my metadata quite quickly. So within my personal file, I've got quite a few. Save for the internet means that I adjust my size and my resolution. I can high pass it to sharpen it, etc., etc. So build yourself some actions up and speed up your work flow, and hopefully your editing won't take you weeks and weeks and weeks like it used to do for me, and you'll bring it down to a few hours. Okay guys, thanks for that. Bye.